Welcome to another edition of Spooky Reviews from Spooky Ventures. This is the 87th review in the series. This time I'm looking at a new Blu-Ray release from Cleopatra of a movie called What the Waters Left Behind: Scars. First, a little word about the whole horror title. As someone who watches a lot of horror, talks a lot about horror a lot, and writes horror, I'll tell you a little secret. I don't think there's a clear definition of what is and isn't horror. It's all sort of subjective, really. That said, for me, there needs to be an element of suspense for something to be considered horror. I don't know that this movie really has that. It's sort of like the act of looking at the scene of a horrible accident. You can't look away, and you're afraid that what you will see next will be worse than what you've already seen. But there isn't really a lot of suspense here. Then again, this is spooky reviews and not horror reviews, so it's not all that important that the movie fit as horror. This film is definitely spooky. I should mention that this is apparently a sequel, but I've not seen the first movie, and I understood what was happening here without that. So that tells me that watching the original movie is definitely not necessary. Although if you have seen it, I'm sure that'll add to it. This is basically a torture movie, and a pretty brutal one at that. I mean, I wouldn't call it extreme, but it definitely has some fairly graphic stuff in it. It is definitely dark and grimy. The acting is all solid here, although I did have some trouble with some of the accents. For me, perhaps the coolest thing about this is the setting. The movie takes place in a small ghost village in Argentina. They give a little bit of the history in the movie, and it had me interested enough in it so that I Googled it. And the town was a thriving tourist destination until a tragedy plunged it under 30 feet of water. Eventually the water receded, but only one person ever returned to live there, and the ruins remain. Mind you, they fictionalized the town, but apparently they filmed this on location there. The setting has this amazing, bleak, apocalyptic feeling to it. It's strangely beautiful to me. And when I say they fictionalize it, I mean that they create this band of horrible people living there when there is only one person in the town in reality. And I'm guessing that that gentleman is not some horrible monster. So there are some negatives to this movie. First, as I said, I had some trouble following some of the dialogue because of some of the accents. Secondly, the stuff that's in Spanish gets subtitles, but whoever did those subtitles might not have the best command of the English language, as there are plenty of typos. Finally, the first part of the movie seems unnecessarily long. It really feels like it drags. Overall, if you like torture movies, this will probably be very much your thing. I'd actually say that the scenery in the town is probably worth at least one viewing by itself. It really is otherworldly, and they do some cool artistic footage of it. I should mention that the only bonuses on the disc are trailers for other movies, but as I often say, I don't think people generally buy movies for the bonuses. They buy it for the main film. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.